Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Elevate Life podcast. I have with us the Sharifa Stevens. She is the theologian in my head. When I was writing my book, I needed confirmation that I was going in the right direction. So I sent her the book ahead of time to make sure that I was heading in the right direction. And she gave me that affirmation that I needed. And so we're all good. But I have her here with us today to talk about this topic, women and church trauma. Before we go deep into the topic, though, I want her to tell us a little bit about herself, or tell us what we do not know and what I did not share about your bio.
Well, I notoriously feel like this is a vast question, and so I try to answer it by going back to just the simplest answers are I'm a human who's growing.
Yes, yes.
Um, I wife and I'm mother, and I feel like those are verbs. And I teach my boys daily right now.
Yes. And they're such amazing humans. I
I
love
like
them.
them. I like them. And I also am a person who loves to write and avoids writing.
And
Sometimes
she's an amazing writer. Like, just absolutely amazing.
I love it, and ooh,
Yes, I know.
published author. And I am a person who loves to worship, and I also avoid worship.
Mm.
So it's
Yes, yes. There's something there. As a trauma therapist, I won't go there today because we're gonna go into women and church
yes,
trauma.
yes.
Um, I would love to hear when you hear this subject about women and church trauma, what resonates for you instantly?
Well, I feel like my experience with church trauma is intersectional, and it has layers. So
Mm-hmm.
like I remember when I accepted Jesus into my heart when I was 5 years old
Mm,
as a little girl, and I remember just the boundless possibilities of the faith and the presence of love and hope and possibility just in knowing that Jesus loved me and
mm.
that I was safe in him.
Wow.
Right. And then life. So as I grew, I was just like, okay, so what are y'all telling me is my trajectory as a person who believes in as a woman who believes
Mm-hmm.
in Jesus? What's my trajectory? And I felt like there was definitely like a spiritual glass ceiling on
Mm,
my faith.
yeah.
So, and it was related to my social status, whether I married, whether I had children, how many children I had, and it seemed like uh at the same time, I remember some of my women relatives who told me to beware of women in the pulpit and said that that
That's
was a
suspicion.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Not more than that. It
Yes.
was a sign of heresy to
Mm,
see a woman behind the pulpit.
mm.
So, I just felt like there was a lack of intellectual curiosity to being a woman
Mm,
following Jesus.
yeah.
And I began to wonder what was so divine about the penis that it could literally alter, its presence or its absence meant so much for eternity, for like what my place would be in the present and in eternity, right?
Oh my
I was
goodness.
like, wow, that's
Yes.
powerful.
It,
Um,
the
so
P has a lot of power in it, that.
apparently,
Ooh.
I mean, anyway,
Yeah.
and I knew nothing about penises. Just to be
Right.
clear,
And then for
like
you to
I was just
be
a kid.
curious about that, like, wait a minute, what is so divine about that it would give you opportunities or, and for me, limit opportunities for me. What's so
Absolutely.
What's so divine about that?
Because I didn't hear any little boy saying, "Well, I'm supposed to be a father and a husband." And that's how no, I mean, they talk about being fathers and husbands in the Christian industrial complex, but it's more like in terms of a collector's item, like
Mm,
it's not their identity, it is like proof of ownership almost.
yeah,
So, it's a different vibe.
it
Anyway,
is. Absolutely. Absolutely.
so that led me to seminary, and so I thought, let me go study what is God, what is the Bible saying about who I am, what's my place in the present and in eternity as a follower. And
W-
so
Did you get the answers that you were looking for
I
in
got I got
seminary?
so much out of that experience. So
Mm, mm,
it felt like when I went, it felt like the glorification of white evangelical manhood.
mm.
And that was the only rubric that was consulted. American, if I didn't say that before, evangelical manhood. That was what was consulted. That was the authority. There was no curiosity about global historical views on soteriology, ecclesiology,
Yeah,
last things, anthropology, history. And
yeah.
I mean, maybe it was different when you went, but
Oh no, it was not very different because we went to the same place. It was
I'm
not very different at all.
I didn't see nothing.
Yeah.
Not even in church history. You would think there was no civil rights movement. You would think there was no church out there was no church in Ethiopia. Like there was
You would
no
think the center
ancient
of the
church.
church was Europe. Like, you know?
And so many of us have, right?
Yeah.
So there was a real comfort with intentional ignorance.
Yeah.
So I remember distinctly there also trauma looking like that because where am I? Where
Mhm.
am I?
Yeah. Yeah.
And some people had the nerve to say that our place is to sing and that's it.
Right.
And singing is sacred, and singing, what they don't say in seminary is that the song will stay with you longer than the sermon ever will.
Ever. Ever
Ever.
will.
Right? So, and we all can attest to this.
That's
Um,
right.
so but that's neither here nor there. Of course, sermons are also important, but it's all important. Anyway,
Yeah, it's
I just
holistic. It has to be holistic, you know, but one can't be glorified over the other and one can't be genderfied over the other. The sermon is for the man to do and the singing is for the women to do, you know?
yes,
So, yeah.
yes. So it's just ironic because they do give like 45 minutes to an hour
Mhm.
to a sermon that, depending on who's singing, nobody's gonna remember. So anyway,
Right.
I just
Right.
remember them also talking about liberation theology like it was something also anathema to be avoided, and the
Yep.
juxtaposition of there was no irony in saying I am against liberation theology.
Liberation.
So what you for,
Which,
honey?
yeah.
As a descendant of enslaved people, as so many Black people are, how is that ringing in my ear? But even as a spiritual, my spiritual inheritance is also the book of Exodus. How do you feel so comfortable talking about what God's against when the whole book of Exodus is there? But not only that, we you got Jesus celebrating Passover and remixing it into communion, but you don't see
You don't see the
the
connection.
theme of
You
liberation?
You do not see it. I mean, that's the wasn't that like the whole gospel? You know?
I guess
It's
not. It depends on what people view as good news, I guess.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so and this is my comfort blanket, so
No,
scream
it
pop.
looks like this fancy, you know,
It's not.
fancy shawl, you know?
It is hooded.
Yes.
Anyway, so I'll be grabbing it every now and then. I
For
thought I
those
would
of
just
you who are listening, you should see Sharifa. She's just beautiful and she just looks so
right.
regal
Yeah.
in this blanket that she calls a blanket. For me, I'm like, oh, she fancy today. You know,
I am not fancy, but I'm warm.
she's working it. She's working it. But back to
Oh yes.
women
So
and church
listen, yes.
trauma.
So there was that, and that's like these are the leaders of the church that are being
Yeah.
trained. So I was just like, wow, it's so interesting that my body am not necessary to the curriculum for people who are training to minister
Yeah.
in the church of Jesus Christ. And so that was very alarming actually, and
Absolutely.
lonely and isolating. And then when I went to work,
Whew.
and when I got behind the scenes in several parachurch organizations and at least one church, it was just I felt like a mule. I'm I
Mm.
I wrote this down. I'm just gonna say it what I wrote because this is
Yes,
the
please.
distillation. It's being in this body is a God-given privilege, but in too many Christian spaces, people see my body the same as they see a mule or a hammer or a pencil.
Whew.
I'm an object, a
Whew.
tool, not worthy of tenderness, consideration, affirmation, acknowledgement beyond how I can serve.
Oh
So
my gosh.
that was my origin story. That's like what radicalized me.
Oh my goodness. Oh my good. Your story began with being curious about the church being a place of safety.
Mm,
From being a little girl and then growing up in the church over and over again, you saw something other than safety for women in the church. You saw the objectification of women. You saw the lack of women voices, or you heard the lack of women voices theologically in
mhm.
the church. You were seen as a mural, like
Well, like,
mm,
it's not all bad because nothing is, but there's this whole aspect of being okay if you're in your place. Does that make sense?
yes,
So
yes.
you can feel a sense of safety if you stay in your place.
Hmm.
The safety is qualified by how you comport yourself and contort yourself
Yeah,
into the space that you're given.
yeah,
There was a lot of wonderful spiritual formation that happened in my growing up years that I would not trade. And there are so many women who may not have had formal roles in
yeah.
the church, but they shepherded me, they mentored me, and they took care of me,
Mm,
like body and soul.
that's
And
beautiful.
men too.
Right, right.
But as far as their any kind of formal accolades or position or power,
Yeah,
which is really what this is about,
yeah.
the power, um, as far as being acknowledged by church governance, it wasn't there. Now,
Right.
but God is more generous
Yeah, God is.
than these church politics, and God disperses power anyway.
Right. Anyway,
That's that's who God is because God is generous.
God
As
is a
soon as
generous God.
Jesus is given power, as soon as he is raised from the dead, he says, "I've been given all power here,"
Right, right,
like
right,
immediately.
right. As I'm hearing you just share about, what trauma has looked like for you
Mhm.
and in the church and as it relates to the church. I just feel it in my body, just the pain
Mm.
of not being seen, of being dismissed, of not being heard, of not being called to the table, to sit at the table, to truly have voice and all of that. I just feel it for us. Like,
Mm,
all of my guests, as we're sharing about, church trauma, I just find my skin kind of like, I just feel it in my gut. And
yeah.
for us to live in that space for decades and decades, and to have to contend with, as long as you're quiet, as long as you are in agreement with the system, you'll be fine. You'll be okay. You'll be safe. Which leads me to think about the quiet women in the church. The women who just agrees with the system. The women who go along with the system.
Hmm.
The women who are just getting along to get by, to just be faithful to God and not stir up any issues in the church. How do you feel about these women, Sharifa? How do you, when you think about them, what do you see?
I think that there are different kinds of quiet.
Yeah.
So, there is the quiet of survival. And
Mm.
I will never degrade a woman who is trying to survive.
And that's a trauma response. That is a trauma response. Quiet survival.
Yes. And so I hold those women as sacred and their experiences as sacred, and
That's
they're
right.
just trying to still be here. There's the quiet of that's conspiratorial,
Mm.
where it's more like passive aggression, right?
Oof.
It's not quiet.
No.
It's not it's just it's a whisper in the right ear.
Yes.
Now those women, I feel like, they're trash.
Right.
They're
They're the
the
co-conspirators.
they
They
are.
they have fully affirmed and fully accept their calling.
They profit. That's why.
Yes.
Again, it's for power.
Yeah.
It's just power for me, not
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So it's not there's no equity in that kind of passive aggressive
Mm.
conspiratorial quiet. And that's on purpose.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then there are women who are quiet because God made them that way. And so I just want us to have choices. And so
Yes.
if the choice is if this is how God made you and not manufactured by oppression or trauma, be that. Like be that. Everybody
Yeah.
can't be loud.
Right. Right.
So I do think that there are different kinds of quiet, but it's the insidious conspiratorial kind of passive aggressive whispering behind the scenes backstabbing
Whew.
kind of quiet that I know you know
Mhm.
it, and
I
so many
know
of
very
your
well.
listeners know it
I
because
know it very well.
they've been shanked by it.
Yes. Yes.
It's that kind of and
Mm.
that just adds to the trauma.
It really does. It really does. Because when you're looking for safety and you think that there will be safety in your sisters, but they're really co conspirators
Yes,
to a system that is very painful that we're fighting against. So
yeah,
it's a different kind of pain.
yes, it is.
It's a
It's a
different kind
betrayal
of
on
pain.
top of pain.
Yes, 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 yes. I want to ask you about God. Ah, the God that sees
Yeah,
um the pain and suffering of women. Where is that God in the midst of women in church trauma?
yeah, I love that question. I had to think about that one and
Mm,
the one afterwards
yes.
for a minute. Because I don't
Ugh.
want to give like a trite response, but this is what I wrote. Jesus began his earthly ministry within the womb of a woman.
Mm,
That's how much he trusted Mary. That's how much he trusted women.
yeah.
His ministry was bankrolled and supported by women. He
Mm,
taught women, dignified women, accepted worship and touch from women.
yeah.
I believe that Jesus is the perfect representative of the Godhead, and I do on my best days. Then I must believe that God is right there with women
Yeah.
when we are experiencing pain and suffering. When it happens to us, it is happening to God because we are God's daughter.
Yeah.
How can he not be moved?
Yeah. Yeah. Last night I did a session with some leaders um, from Latin America, and one of the questions was, how do you heal from church trauma? But specifically, when church is synonymous for God often, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people see
Mm.
the leaders of the church to be God. How, and then to ask the question, where is God? Is God the one allowing women to be silent in the church and not um, take space in the church and not accept their calling in the church? Where is God's posturing for women and their pain, women in ministry, women who are called and doors are being closed in their faces? Where is God in all of that? Where is God in all of the debate about whether women can preach and teach and take office in the church and so on and so forth?
Yeah.
Where is God?
So yeah, I am not really comfortable with how permissive God is
Hmm.
with some of the things that are happening.
Yeah,
Um, I so I'll just name that.
yeah.
I I know that it has been said that everything happens for a reason.
Oh, goodness.
Um,
It has been said.
it has been said. So, but what I usually default to when I'm frustrated, and there's a lot of crap happening to be frustrated about, is where was Jesus? So when Jesus was here, where was he found?
Mhm.
And that is my solace because i- Jesus was nothing if not intentional about where he would be found.
Yep.
And he would be found pursuing people who were on the outside.
Yep.
So if and the thing that made him the most angry was the lack of access that people had. So even in the
Yeah.
house of prayer,
Right.
in the court of women and the court of Gentiles, where people just set up shop to profit, that's when you see Jesus, meek and mild, turning over tables.
Yep.
This is what made him angry, was a lack of access. What
Yeah.
he praised was people cutting open roofs to bring their friends down in front of him.
Mm, that sacrifice.
That 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 was he was like, "Oh, okay, friends, your faith has made your friend well."
That's right.
So where Jesus could be found was having theological conversations. The longest recorded theological conversation was with the woman at the well.
Mhm.
N- the longest. So, and he was followed by 12 guys,
Yeah.
and often interrupted.
Yeah.
Like often. So, which is fine. We're just like the disciples. It's not like
We're
we're
just naming some truths that,
but
yeah.
I am, yes, that need to be named.
Yeah.
In order to answer the question, where's God in all of this? Where was Jesus in all of it? Where was
Yeah.
he? He was definitely defending women. He was
That's
definitely
right.
having conversations with women. He was definitely dignifying women. He was definitely pursuing women. I can't
That's right.
remember when he shamed a woman. The only time he did like he was like, hold up, mom," because his mom was like,
Right. Right.
"Calm." come be with us. And he's
Right.
like, wait a second.
You're not my family? Like, you family, son, you better know your family.
Exactly. Know your place. And Jesus has been like about the expansion of family.
Right.
So you don't get, just because of that DNA connection, that doesn't make you a person with hierarchy over the people who need to hear the good news.
Right. Right.
So it's an access thing
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So this is would Jesus be about precluding access
Yeah.
to his
Yeah.
saving power, precluding access to the Spirit's power
Mhm.
among believers? Would he be doing that? Where's the evidence of that?
Right. Right.
I
Because
I
the
don't.
overwhelming evidence is that Jesus included, Jesus opened the door, Jesus allowed, Jesus sat with, Jesus listened, Jesus talked to. That's what we see.
And we're supposed to be Christians.
Right. That's what we
We're
see.
supposed to follow Christ's example. So I do put primacy on the person of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So Jesus is who is my rubric.
Right.
Paul can only be understood by me in terms of who Jesus is. And Paul would want it that way.
Right. Absolutely.
I think he's up in glory like, man, they just really abused my words. I really I really think they are.
Jesus is
He's
like,
up
huh,
there
I
like,
said that?
Paul liked to talk. So I feel like Paul was
Yes,
just like, look, in this church, this is how we do it. And in this church, this is how we do it. This is a letter
exactly.
to this church.
Right. It was a private conversation about a community that was having some interesting things going on.
They were having real interesting things going on.
Yes.
Like, hey, be silent. Okay. But hey, when you
Right.
pray and prophesy,
Right.
how are you praying and prophesying and being silent at the same
At the
time?
same time,
How does
that
it work?
that's just practically, practical knowledge is different than theoretical. Ah,
Anyway, so rabbit trail.
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but that's where God is. That is not a rabbit trail.
No,
I
it's
look to where
not.
Jesus is to know where God would be now.
Sarah Bessie wrote a book years ago that some Christians love, some hated. You know which book I'm talking about?
Is it Jesus
Jesus,
feminist?
Jesus feminist.
Yeah.
Jesus feminist, but really speaking about this theme here that where would Jesus be found,
Mhm.
right? What is the posturing of Jesus
Mhm.
when it comes to women? How would Jesus elevate women? Did Jesus elevate women, right? Did Jesus want women to have equality? Oh, I just said the word equality in the body of Christ? Like, would Jesus be okay with that? Would Jesus want that? Would Jesus deny women equality? Because that's kind of like what feminism mean, right? So it
No, feminism is the opposite, right? It's
to
affording them equality, yeah?
yeah.
Yeah. He's
So
he's a feminist, and
yeah. And the word feminism has gotten a bad rap over the years and all of that, but I think we need to really sit in the and think through what the word is doing, and not even the word, we're going to put the word to the side, but really Jesus is posturing when it
right.
comes to women, and women having access, women having a seat at the table, women being in love with his word, and his stands for liberation, for freedom, for being a part of this gospel that he was preaching. Like,
Yeah.
what would be so wrong with women loving all of that and saying, I want to be one of your disciples? I often ask this question, like, what is wrong with that? What is so wrong with that desire to be a true disciple of Jesus, to
Mm.
preach and teach, to prophesy, right? And so it goes back to what you said at the beginning, the divine P,
Yeah.
the divinity of the P, right? We don't have that. So let's switch the conversation, because it's like, really, it just, the more you talk about it, the more you're scratching your head like, really, this is where we are? Is this what we're doing in the church?
The well-worn argument is for created order, number one. Like
Mm,
this is what um people who believe differently would say. There is a created order. We didn't make it,
yeah,
but if we're to be loyal Christians, then we ought to adhere to that created order.
yeah,
Woman was made for the man.
yeah. Oh,
Uh,
I've heard all those teachings.
yes.
Yes.
So we know. I mean, it's
Now,
not
for those
coming
of
out
you
of
who are
nowhere.
listening, Sharifa is not saying she agrees with the
That's
the
right.
theory of the created order. She's just saying what she's heard,
This
what
is
we've
what
been taught.
I know, but I tried to adhere to that.
Yeah,
In order to be a good Christian woman, I did try to adhere to that. But it didn't feel like it I think it was presented as orthodoxy.
mm-hmm.
But so to believe something different would be to not be Christian.
Yeah,
But to not be Christian is to deny the Trinity and to deny the God man, Jesus.
right.
Like these are true orthodox issues, right?
Yeah,
So um it was hard for me to tear myself away from this tenet that was harmful to me
yeah.
because I didn't want to tear myself away from God, and it felt like that's what
You
I
were.
was doing.
Yeah, because again, it was synonymous to
Yeah.
God Himself. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no dignity for single people in this rubric, number one.
Mm-hmm.
But there's definitely no dignity for women apart from the roles that they play as wives or mothers, if they are wives or mothers.
Right.
So in this rubric, it's not possible to be a Christian
Yeah.
without being attached to another human being first.
Mm. Yeah.
That's
Make it make
faulty.
sense.
That's where I was just like, okay, I think this is
Well, again, practically, I agree to what you shared, that you tried to live into that created order. I think many of us women in the church will say that we have tried. But
yeah.
the problem is that each of our lives are very unique, and each of the experiences is unique. No one woman will look like another woman. What works for you may not work for me. What works in your family will not work with my family.
Mhm.
So to try to live into this created order, theory is so hard, because I believe it's not from God necessarily, right? I believe it's too binding, it's too restrictive, it's too
Mhm.
limiting, and it does not speak of the liberation that Christ came to give us.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying I am for disorder, or I am for crises, and just
Of
all
course
things
not.
being all over the place, because that created order. I don't even think if it's resolving that. I don't even think it's talking about that, right? um but there's something limiting about trying to fit a mold for all
Mhm.
women for all time, to fit into these, very limiting boxes.
Yeah. Agreed.
That's painful for a lot of us women, for many of us women who God created to be outside of the box. And our unique experiences don't fit in the box, right?
No, absolutely. And
Yeah,
it's honestly not, this created order really shows up after the fall. It didn't show up before the fall. It only shows up in that uh Adam was created before Eve, but it doesn't, but the text doesn't say, and that's why
right,
only one of you should subdue the earth.
right,
Like
right.
it just, no, it doesn't say that.
Yeah,
We really see that hierarchical language after the fall
right.
when Adam is just displeased with God and with Eve.
Yeah, yeah.
Um which that that's problematic. So
Yes.
on so many levels, we don't talk about that. But anyway,
Oh,
and in
goodness.
the future, when we look to the future that Jesus talks about, no one's marrying or being given in marriage. This is
Yeah,
an eternity without that kind of role. The roles that I'm supposed to be leaning into in order to be a fulfilled Christian woman
right.
won't exist in eternity.
Yeah,
Why are they taking outsized precedence now? I
right.
so anyway,
Yeah,
if
let's
it's
go
not in
there
the
a little bit. Let's
creation.
reimagine though. Let's reimagine, what does healing for women in the church, look like? How do we reimagine, you know, what and a liberated space could look like for us women um to lead together, to worship together, not one over the other, but really with sisters and brothers coming together to really worship God. So help me reimagine that, because there's been so much, it's so deeply rooted in the church. Um, and I still feel like the majority of the church, of the Christian church, is still operating under this created order. How do we heal from that? Where do we go?
I That is a good question. When I considered the question, originally it was in more individualistic terms. I think to put it outward towards reimagining, I think it has to involve a question of who profits from the choices that we make that we choose to prioritize.
Yeah.
Who profits from a narrative that sits down half the church?
Mm.
Does the kingdom of heaven profit?
Mm.
Who really
Who benefits? Mhm.
who profits from this? Because men do not profit from a worldview that objectifies women. And we are
Absolutely not.
seeing the fruit.
Absolutely not.
This is not just a women's issue because there men are out here removed from their emotional realities,
Mhm.
reducing sex to objectification,
Yeah.
uh, and it's leading them to lead double lives.
Yeah.
Men
Yep.
in power are lonely.
Mhm.
They don't have accountability,
Yep.
and they keep they are ripe for acting out in abusive ways, and
Yeah.
we have seen it. It
Yep.
doesn't have to be sexual in nature, but it's power that is perverted.
Mhm.
So reimagining a healing way, it's not just for women. It is for all of us.
Right.
It is for, our sons to be fully embodied human beings,
That's right.
to be able to mourn, to cry, to have friends
Mhm.
who with whom they can confide,
Yeah.
to be able to look like it's really not countercultural the way a lot
Mhm.
of Christian men look at Christian women. It is
Mm.
not countering a culture that prizes youth and fertility in women,
Yeah.
that infantilizes women.
Yeah.
It's not countercultural. What would truly be countercultural is to have relationships among men and women
That's right.
that are characterized by mutual respect, love, and like dedication to well-being.
Absolutely. That is shalom. That
That's
is
shalom.
peace.
This is fracture. This is what fracture looks like.
Right.
And so I know that there are many people who think that the presence of a woman in the pulpit is heretical, but like sexual abuse scandals are heretical.
Talk about it.
Embezzlement, greed,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not that has no place in the body.
Yeah.
Um, people molesting children.
And that's where you see a whole lot of that. Those things are heretical.
Mhm.
And I love the question about who profits, who benefits from, these systems, upholding these cultural systems that we call biblical systems,
Right.
right? Who profits, and we all lose. And I often share that, especially as a therapist, when I do marriage counseling, for example, and I see the brokenness in both men and women,
Yeah.
and I'm like, we have got this wrong.
Mhm.
We have got this wrong, where men cannot be fully themselves, as well as women not being fully themselves. Like, who's winning here? No one's
Who is
winning.
winning? Like, what if there was a manhood that wasn't s for which the undercurrent of violence wasn't a requirement for their
Yeah.
manhood?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
so much violence inherent in what it is to be a
To
man.
be a man. The whole protector. What are you protecting me from? Violence. Right? So the
And who is
undercurrent.
perpetrating the violence?
And who is perpetrating the violence? So
So
the undercurrent of violence is true. Yeah.
it is, and it has to be exhausting for men to always have to size other men up, to wonder who they can take in a battle, to have to be able to skin things and shoot things and like, okay. I mean, what if what where it's not like those things are well, some of them are inherently some of them are bad. Like, some of it's
Oh,
neutral,
goodness.
some of it's awful
Yes, yes.
and contributes to a society of violence. But some of it, I'm like, what if I I don't know. I feel like I'm pulling a thread. It's just what if you weren't talking to everybody about your smoking hot wife? Maybe you're wanting other men to desire what you have, and maybe envy is not something that you need to cultivate.
Mm,
Maybe you don't need to objectify your wife in order to be happily married.
right.
You're like, maybe we could do better.
Maybe, just maybe.
Maybe
Just maybe.
maybe you cultivate honesty amongst yourselves instead of like
Yeah.
creating yardsticks.
Yeah.
Like and maybe you can find some relief in in transparency and true
Right.
friendship. Like this
Right.
we have something for men too as women because we do those things. We
Exactly.
offer those things. We are and part of that might be because of our identities as an oppressed class somehow.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think part of it also is just the freedom that we have to do this, to be
Yeah.
friends. That's why it's so betraying when sisters are like backstabbers, right?
Exactly.
That's not normal. But, like,
Exactly.
we have friendship to extend to men.
Yeah. Absolutely.
men can learn from us about this too, and we can learn from them. I love, man, some of my male friends, what I do without them? It should be in the kingdom of God normal to feel safe in the presence of men.
In the presence of
It should be
men. It
normal.
should be normal, and
That's
we
good
can,
news.
that is the good news. We can normalize feeling safe in the presence of men. We can normalize that in the body of Christ, right? This is so good. This is so
Yeah.
good. What has healing looked like for you, Sharifa, in the body of Christ, specifically you?
Healing for me.
Oh, you smile.
Yes. For me, it is looked like moving on.
Mm, yeah.
It has been, healing means removing myself from the places that, make me have a pit in my stomach or heart palpitations.
Mm,
And,
mm.
healing is, uh, God restoring the years that the locusts have eaten,
Yes. Yeah.
restoring resources, validation from
Yeah.
Him when I didn't get it from the places that I had hoped I would.
Yeah.
Um, it looks like honesty with
Yes.
God.
Yes.
I used
Being
to,
fully human.
yes, I used to fear, as if God couldn't see, but I used to fear, a certain amount of honesty with God.
Yeah.
Sometimes I still default to that,
Yeah.
but, only the devil loves separation between people and God.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
That's who profits, right?
Intimacy with God is safe.
It's safe, and it
Yeah.
doesn't require perfection, which
Yeah.
is so that's freeing.
Yeah.
So,
That's good. What
yeah.
does joy look like for you in this season?
Ooh, so my written answer was that I find my joy in the risen Jesus,
Mm,
who endured the cross and despised the shame,
mm-hmm.
who was murdered for loving people and suffered at the hands of the state, just like so many of our
Yeah.
brothers and sisters. Jesus, who defended women and kept company with women to the
Mm.
point that his own disciples were uncomfortable.
Oh my goodness. I love that.
Jesus, who is safe, even if his followers, some of them, are not.
That is beautiful. You started with using the word safe and you ended with using the word
Yes.
safe. And I think it's so good to hear that word and for us to reimagine reclaiming safety with
Mm,
within our bodies, with our brothers in the church and
mm,
through Jesus Christ,
yes,
because that's the language of healing, safety,
yes.
right? When women can be safe in the church, when women can be fully themselves in the church, when women don't have to kind of brace themselves on Sunday mornings or to be in community with the church, that's when we know we are on to something. We are on to healing in
Yeah.
the church, and we are on to having a true community that centers the gospel. This is so good. I love hearing you. You can be my theologian all day, every day.
I
You are
love
the
hearing you,
theologian
my
in my
author
head.
friend.
Yes. Like it's so good. We talk, it's like your posturing is you love Jesus. And because you love Jesus, there's so much freedom for all people in how you talk and how you posture yourself. And it's like the table is wide open
Mhm.
for us to eat and drink and commune with one another. And I just love that about you. I love that you
You.
have an open table.
Thank you.
I do. I do. Okay, we're going to ask the fun question that I ask everyone. You know, I love fashion. Yes, the pastor loves fashion. The therapist love fashion.
I need
You know,
fashion advice.
li-
When I saw that question, I was like, "Ooh,
ooh,
an
you're
item
from
of
New
clothing."
York.
I know where I'm from.
You're from New York.
I
So
know.
whenever I see you though, Sharifa, there's always an element of like New York fashion. Like it's not, and New York fashion is not necessarily like glamour, but it's like unique. It's like the little thing that makes you you, that speaks your
Yeah.
language, that gives you that little edge. So what's that thing for you in this season?
That's a good question. I have one answer, but I think the real answer is my earrings. I really like having fun
Yes.
earrings. That's me.
Yes.
So they're like my pop of color and whimsy, and they tell a story of where I've been, where I want to go back
Yes.
to. So I think that's my answer,
That's the answer because you always have
except today.
earrings, except for today, but you do. If you go on Sharifa's profile on Instagram, you will see
I
one of
mean,
those earrings.
that's true. You'll see one.
You'll see one,
I'm not on Instagram like that.
not as
So
much. Where can
yeah.
people find you though?
So I have a Substack called When and Where I Enter.
Mhm.
Um, so I think I should probably know the URL, but I do not.
You just Google her name, Sharifa Stevens. You will
Yes,
find her Substack. She
yes,
is absolutely amazing. She's working on a book project right now. Do you want to talk about that
I
or
am. It's called When We Talk to God, Poems and Prayers for Black Women, and it is going to drop next year. I believe in May.
let me
So
tell you, you want to follow Sharifa to know when the book will drop because you will want to read it.
it's
Okay?
already on Amazon. The
See,
pre-orders are open, but
pre-orders are open. Please
yes,
go
but
and pre.
quietly. They're like quietly open. So it's between you and me and the listeners. But if you
Yes.
look on Amazon for When We Talk to God, you will find
Okay, for
an
those of
active link.
you that are listening to this hot off the press, go to Amazon right now and pre-order Sharifa's book. And let me tell you, her book will be like this conversation today. You will feel loved, you will
Mhm.
feel accepted, you will feel free, you will breathe a sigh of relief. You will find healing through
That's
her
my
book.
prayer.
So
That's my
please
prayer.
go and pre-order. I'm about to go and pre-order now, so
Oh
you go
my
help my sister out and go and pre-order.
You
Thank you
can't. Just
so
don't
much
tell
for being
anybody
here.
yet. It's this, it doesn't come out until May.
I
So
don't care. I'm still gonna pre-order now. I'm just saying. I'm just gonna be one of the first. I don't care, you
okay.
know. So thank you so much for being here. I
Thank
love
you so much
you.
for having me. I love you too.
This
I
was
love
so
you too.
good. Oh my gosh, you're my sister for real. Okay, listeners, we can do this all day, every day. Thank you for listening. I will see you next time, or you will hear me next time on this podcast, The Elevate Life. So thank you for being here, Sharifa. See you next time. This was so good. Oh my gosh.
I always love talking to you.
Oh, this was so good. So good. I knew I needed to have you on here.
It's such an honor.
Yeah, it's
Wait,
such a
we're
good
still
subject.
recording. Is that
No,
on purpose?
it's stopping and it's uploading.
Oh, okay.
So don't cancel yet.
I'm not canceling. And I
And
had no problems.
no, I know.
This is the first time. When I tell you, I always have problems with Riverside.
Are you serious?
Always.
No, this was good.
You're special.
I know. I know. So it's working on uploading the audio, so it's taking its time. I don't know why.
I wonder if I could send you Do you need a picture too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
You look cute here.
Oh goodness. Man, I've been struggling because like I started hormone replacement therapy
I
earlier
know.
this year. I got off it.
Why?
So that because there was one time where I was like, okay, so I haven't stopped my cycles. Sometimes I ovulate. I might be pregnant. I don't want this. I don't want this.
Yeah.
Especially not here.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
because I've always had complications, but as a 49-year-old, what if I need to make hard decisions? Can't
Uh,
do that here.
yeah.
So I started birth control last month, and I've had cystic acne, hormonal acne all around
Oh
here.
my goodness.
Since then, my anxiety shot right back up. It's just everything that I didn't even realize how much I had improved,
Oh
just went right
man.
back.
Oh my
So,
goodness. I am so sorry, sis. That
it's
sucks.
over. I was just like, "Look, Jonathan, the answer is always no."
Right.
Okay. Like bruh. He's like, "So can I finish?" No. No.
Today the answer is no.
The answer is always no, please stop asking. Okay?
Exactly. That is poor
So
Jonathan.
poor. I'm changing my entire body chemistry so that this
Girl,
man can finish.
girl, that is crazy. And
So
it's
I
crazy to
have
be
like 16 pimples right here. Anxiety, my frozen shoulder. So I just ripped it off and I was like, let me put on this estrogen patch. Boom. And now I just feel so much better already. It's only been 2 days. No, no, no. So I was taking an estrogen patch and progesterone pills, switched to birth control, which I don't think it's bioidentical estrogen or progesterone. So I never did well on birth control, which is why we just didn't use neither. So I think it's I think it's the composition. But not only was I protected, I didn't want sex. Like, birth control made me dead. I don't want anything messing with my libido.